Need to identify host.
Yeah, but
Someone host. Can you,
I'll click the button and it's recording, so we're good to go.
Okay, great.
All right, well, I guess, should I just kick off?
Yes.
Okay. So as you guys know, we've been doing some work to get support for Octopus in Bamboo. And I just wanted to run through quickly the process that you would use to build that plugin and debug it for yourself locally. This is partly selfish because we want to get it into the bug bash and have as many people as possible testing this thing. But also because the process that we've got here changes a little bit from the other Java projects that were out there, like the Team City one, and it should hopefully be a lot easier. So people can just pick it up without too much trouble. So I'll just share my screen. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to point out was that we're using Maven instead of Ant. So Maven has better support in IDEs. You can just import the project and it's fairly painless. To make things a little bit easier, we've also used this Maven wrapper. And so what this is a script that will download Maven for you if you don't have it, and then pass all the commands through to it. So that means you don't actually have to have any software beyond Java on your machine to get up and running. So you would run a command like this, nvn, it won't actually show it downloading the Maven executable for me because I've done this in the past, but if you did this for the first time yourself, this first step would download the tools you need. So really you're at a point where you can just clone the repo and start building. So I'll just can this because that's not, the build itself is not all that important. The other thing that Maven gives us is good integration with stuff like IntelliJ. You can just import projects straight away from import Maven projects straight away. So you can see here that there's support in IntelliJ for Maven projects. It's really just a case of clicking next, next, next. You won't see this. This is just popping up because I've already imported it at some point and created a project, but I'll recreate it here. So what it's doing now is just resolving all the dependencies. They're all dependencies that can be found online. So again, you don't have to manually download or have a copy of Bamboo yourself in order to build this. And once it's done, you can see that it's resolved everything that it needs to resolve. And at this point, you're good to start building the project or jumping into the source code and clicking around to see how everything is structured. So for example, I can control click on these classes that come from Bamboo and they're available there for me to look at. So that's fairly straightforward, and it means you can get up and running with the source code really, really quickly. The next thing that I want to show you is how to build the plugin and actually run it in an instance of Bamboo locally. So what I have installed already is the Atlas SDK. So that's the Atlassian SDK for building plugins and add-ons for their various products. And all the commands start with Atlas. And in this case, to build the plugin and run an instance of Bamboo locally so you can test it, all you need to do is run Atlas run. So what this is going to do is, the first time you run it, it'll download a copy of Bamboo for you, it will build the plugin, and then it will start everything locally and give you a URL that you can just open and test. So this will take a few minutes. So while we're waiting for that to finish, I will just jump into an instance of Bamboo that I've put up online, and that's already has the plugin installed, so we can see what it looks like. This is a demo Java project. This is a build project in Bamboo, and I've just jumped into the configuration here, where we can see the new steps that are made available by the Bamboo plugin. So if you've seen the TeamCity plugin, it's very similar. Different steps for running commands like pack and push and create release and deploy release. And the fields are very similar as well. So it's that pack one there, we'll just build the zip file, we'll push the zip file up to the library, create release, deploy release, and optionally promote release. This is all pretty straightforward. There's probably not much to show off here. The only other thing I wanted to point out was that Bamboo has the notion of build plans and deployment plans. So this is a deployment project, I should say. And you can run these same steps in both areas. So depending on how you want to structure the build of your project in Bamboo, and you want to be able to promote releases through the deployment scripts or through the build scripts, it's really up to you. And they're exactly the same options available to you with the same fields. So this is I've just jumped back to the Atlas run command, and it should give us a URL fairly shortly. Any minute now. It does take a little while. It is launching a full version of Bamboo locally, so it can take a few minutes to start up. While I'm waiting, I might just kick off a build here so we can see this in action. So this is just the Maven build. It's building a demo Spring project. So at this point we're done. We'll be starting the packing here. This will be a push. We must be creating our release here, or maybe deploying. And that should be it. So that's gone through and done the full life cycle of build, pack, push, create, release, and deploy. And that has actually gone through an instance of Bamboo and up to an instance of Tomcat that's also in AWS. So if we go to the sorry. So that will be the 31st. So that's that's the build we just pushed up to Tomcat. So that all went well. Just jump back here. I think that might actually be ready. Okay, so there we go. That's the URL there. So at that point, it indicates that the local server is ready to go. And here's the local instance of Bamboo. So as you can see with one command, we have now got a local development environment with the plugin installed and ready to go. And if I jump into this menu, so there's the Bamboo plugin installed for us. So yeah, for those who are inclined to do some testing, it's literally a case of install the SDK, clone the repo, and run Atlas run, and you have everything you need to test the plugin in an instance of Bamboo locally. So that's all I really wanted to show off. Did anyone have any questions?
So what does that deployment step look like where you're pushing to Tomcat? Is that where you're just doing the pushing via HTTP or something? Is that a custom step, or is that just a script you've written for now for the time being?
No, so all that is a file copy into a directory called web apps. No, I didn't want localhost. I want this one. Yeah, the deployment where it will extract the package, and once the package is extracted, Tomcat detects the new file and takes it from there. So it's just one step.
Cool. And you've gone with the approach of zipping up the WAR file?
Yeah, so that's the only option we have now, I think, to get it into the library. Whether that's the approach we take going future, I'm not sure, but zipping it up for now. The reason why, so one of the discussions that we have is the issue of file name. So this is the name of the file that gets built, and that hash and then timestamp is something that Bamboo recognizes as a way of doing parallel deployments, and parallel deployments are used to drain connections from old apps and direct traffic to new apps, so you can deploy them side by side and just have the old app fall off as the users finish their sessions. But obviously these kinds of file names are not compatible with Semver, or not necessarily compatible with Semver. So the option we have today is to just zip that up again in a package that Octopus deploy recognizes, and then extract it again on the way out.
I think that seems fair enough for a first pass. I think that's pretty good. Yeah. Yeah.
Why can't we just relax that restriction there? Just have one number. Because this would be still alphabetically, like numerically sort these, right?
We need to get the version number and the package ID.
So that could be that. So
just keep in mind that this number here is Tomcat specific. If you were to use a Java server like Wildfly, it doesn't actually recognize that. The file name wouldn't contain a version necessarily. So there's a lot of inconsistencies, I guess, between the servers that would need to be accounted for.
Yeah. And what you were saying the other day, Matt, was that that's not necessarily what they consider their version number for that package. They might have a Maven build that has a separate version number.
That's true. So I've put a timestamp here for the benefit of Tomcat to get the parallel deploys, but if you actually look at the manifest file, the Maven version is different again. So
and that is a Semver version there.
Yeah.
It can be, but it is not necessarily.
Right.
I mean, we can make that the stipulation though, and as long as we can pull that manifest out, similar to what we do with NuGet, and use that as the canonical.
Is that manifest extensible? Can they put what they want in there? Oh.
I believe you can stick whatever you want over and above a number of defined fields, but don't quote me on that. I'd have to double check. Let me have a look. There'll probably be some fields in there that aren't standard anyway.
And in the Java community, people use Semver. It's a practice, or
not really. I mean, Maven kind of is the standard, and although I mean you can use Semver with Maven, but it's not really typically used. You get a lot of these snapshot releases, which have a special meaning in Maven that doesn't really seem to map to Semver one-to-one. So here's a good example. Spring has stuck their own field in here. So yeah, it's you can put whatever you want in. I think these implementation ones and manifest ones are standard.
for different versions.
Yeah. I think the zip thing is a good first pass, and we can sort of have a bit more of an investigation into getting a little bit closer to the raw WAR files.
I think where zip gets ugly is if you wanted to do things like your package transfer step. If you just wanted to get the WAR file onto a server to work with, then you have to extract it yourself.
Well, that's what they already have to do with packages. And like, if you're using the raw package transfer script and you want to extract it on the other side.
Sorry, but at least the other way, you've got access directly to the package that you're interested in, whereas this way, you've got a zip file that contains the package that you're interested in.
So this is the step that deploys to Maven. So it's literally just copy the file into this directory, and Tomcat will take it from there. There may be, sorry, Phil.
Well, that is a difference there, right? Like, because it's not like we're uploading NuGet packages into IS or something where our conventions had to extract everything.
So yeah, if we started building Java specific steps, we would have to decide whether we expected them to take a zip file, which they know to extract and then work with the WAR file, like a cloud service Azure step, or they take the package directly.
What's the story with configuration for this stuff though? Like, how do you say this is my dev connection string or this is my production connection string?
Right, so that depends on the kind of app that you're writing. Spring
Java.
takes the...
Java, exactly.
And that's why I think it would be very tied to the step type. There'd have to be different conventions on those.
Yeah. So this is an empty file here, but this would just be a key value pair that would include a lot of Spring Boot settings. This could also be maybe an XML file or a YAML file. So there's a lot of different ways that settings are configured inside these apps.
And that's not even at the top level even. That's not even in the root. That's down in some specific folder.
Yeah.
But that's okay. You can do variable replacement on those.
Yeah, sure. But it's just, if it was a convention that it's always on the top level, we'd know where to look. Whereas this makes it sound like each different place you're deploying to is going to have its own conventions on where the configs
And I remember Matt saying that they're not supposed to be unzipped or unpacked, those files.
Yeah.
So if you
No, so there is the notion of an exploded WAR, which is just all these files in a directory, but typically they will be just distributed as the WAR file itself and not extracted.
But again, with Azure Cloud Services, we do a similar thing. We unpack the cloud service package, do all our config transforms, and then repackage it up. Is that an approach you could take with WAR files as well?
I don't see why not. I guess if you treat the zip file in Octopus as a transparent meta package, I imagine for the most part.
Or even if WAR files were the native package type, we could still explode them, do whatever we wanted to do on the files inside, like configuration transforms, and then repackage it.
Yeah, potentially. So all the packages in Java are just zip files with different extensions. So you'll have jars and wires and ears and other things, but they are just zip files. So from that point of view, it's just the extension.
Let's say you build this WAR file and you give it to Tomcat, and then someone says, you know what, we've renamed the database, so change the update points to the new database. Like, how do people handle that? Do they rebuild the whole thing to get the configuration, or is there some other way that configuration gets injected?
So there's two ways that configuration like databases is consumed by an application. It's either the app itself connects to the database directly through its own, the name of the database and the name of the server, or in the case of an application server like Wildfly, often the server itself will maintain a connection to the database and just expose that as a named resource. So potentially, yeah, if something like a database IP address or host name changes, you're looking at either rebuilding the server to accommodate that new name, or rebuilding the app and repushing.
Is it common to use things like environment variables then, where you set an environment variable on that machine specific for that app that it pulls in, or?
Yeah, so the way I've seen it done in the past is that the WAR files themselves are the same between all environments. So the way you promote from one environment to the next is literally just deploy the same unchanged WAR file. And the servers contain all the environment-specific details. So you would have the prod server, which maintains connections to the prod database and exposes them with a name like, settings or something. And that same database name of settings is used in test, but it points to a different database. So it works, but it's cumbersome to push environment-specific settings through the server. Like, it's quite a big overhead to have to rebuild a server for changing these things. But that's the way I've seen it done without technology like what Octopus Deploy does, where they'll inject those settings as they get pushed out.
What will be cool is taking the conversation off the Slack and putting it into a spec or series of specs. Maybe one, how do we deploy WARs? How do we replace things? Because in the future, some developer's going to come along and go, why did you do it this way? You're doing it wrong. You can kind of point them at that and go, is our reasoning behind it? No, we're still getting that with .NET stuff. It's kind of like, you should do it this way. And it's like, no, well, here's our thoughts. And so, yeah. So we're doing that with the spaces and the promotion stuff now. So.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I think there's the thing about Java is there's edge cases with every kind of application server, and I don't think any one person has enough experience across the 4 or 5 application servers that are out there to know all the edge cases. So making a spec like that public for comment would be valuable.
I guess the nice thing about using zips as well is it constrains the number of package types we end up having to support. Otherwise,
and unzip, even with the zip format, we struggled in the past that we couldn't unzip something because the bits were not in the right places.
It also gives us a nice way to package other things other than just the WAR file. If you wanted to set scripts or anything else beside it.
I do think that we can't say, well, we just want to keep zip, but also we support NuGet as a first class thing. I feel we need to put Java on .NET in Octopus over the next 6 months. So I feel like supporting whatever native thing, supporting Maven feeds for packages, all that kind of stuff makes sense.
But we can do it in a transparent way. Kind of when you upload a var or use a Maven feed, we seamlessly kind of zip it up, and then it goes through the rest of our pipeline. And then at the other end, it gets unpacked. So the user never really sees that it's zip.
Yeah, I think the main problem with it all is just that naming convention. The fact that sounds like some application servers use the name of the file in a specific way that differs from the way we want to use the name of the file.
Yeah, it seems like we'd have to put it in the manifest, not the file name.
So if we can get around that problem or have some sort of workaround or wrapper or whatever, then I think it would be nice to support wire as a first class. That's what you get, that's what you push, that's what comes out of the other end. But that looks good, I think.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice.
Thank you.
So this all runs happily on Bash on Windows, yeah?
Yeah, I've been doing everything through the Windows Bash. So I mean, it's not technically supported doing any of this, but I haven't run into any issues. So
That's cool. And is the plugin open source?
I don't know. It's not now, but
so the plan is, yeah, we'll make it open source, just like the TeamCity one is open source, so people have problems, they can change it or whatever. It'll be under the Apache license, and it'll be on the Atlassian marketplace for free for people to use. Cool. We're meeting with Atlassian people sometime this week to figure out what our go-to-market plan with this stuff is, but it might be that we'll quietly launch it this month and get people using it with a blog post or something. And then as we figure out our overall Java story, we might start to do some heavy marketing around just moving into the Java space, that kind of stuff.
all right. Oh well, unless there's any other questions, I'll hand over to Michael. I believe he had something else for the TLDR today.
Yeah, let's do that. So I'll share my screen. Alrighty. This morning I just wanted to show a quick demo of some work I've done over the last couple of days. That was, well, last day actually, just a bit of fun as a bit of a adventure starting in the morning and finishing in the afternoon. Was around our upgrade experience. And so about a year and a bit ago, I wrote a script that was going to fix up something to do with channel data being misconfigured. And I accidentally put a line of code on the wrong side of a brace that was part of a for loop or for each loop. And that caused a really big performance problem. And that upgrade script in certain scenarios would run really slowly. And so it looked like the web server had hung, was doing nothing as it was starting up, because we really don't expose any information to anybody when we're doing these upgrades, because they're normally really fast, like adding a new column or adding a new table or adding a new index. And so we found and fixed that bug, and so that script actually started running a lot faster. But just in the back of my head was this idea of, can we reveal more information about the upgrade process? So after talking to the team, my team yesterday about it, we came up with what we think was a pretty neat idea around this. So I just thought I'd show this too. This is Octopus 3.2. It's actually imported from one of our deployment servers, which is running Octopus 2.6. So I've imported that into an Octopus 3.2 server just to show our old login screen. Oh my gosh, it's sort of bringing back memories of what that used to look like, and to prove that it is old. And what I'm going to do now is, here's a MSI that I built just before I started TLDR this morning, and hopefully this is all going to work really nicely. So I'm just installing straight over the top of this existing installation, just like any one of our customers would do when they get this new version. So this will probably launch in 3.14. And so now that I've done that, we're executing the Octopus Server Manager. And when that pops up, it would normally do a short little reconfiguration, but now we're showing more information and executing the database upgrade scripts. And so now when you upgrade the executables on your server, you'll also see all of the upgrade scripts running. You'll notice that we don't offer an opt-out. It's just going to run just like it does today. And so if you happen to have started the Octopus web server, it would have been doing this anyway, but just hidden away from you, and you probably weren't aware that this was going on. There we go. And so now we're up and running. And if I go to my portal again and refresh, oh, look at that, fireworks, boom, boom, I'm happy. And I'm on my new version, ready to rock and roll, and everything's upgraded. But the nice thing is that I feel as an administrator, I've had a pretty reasonable experience there. The thing that I really think this will help with is if there's a problem, if there's an error, you should see some more useful information about that. And so whereas before the Octopus server would crash and then you'd have to go hunting for the error logs and try and figure out what happened. And so the nice thing is now you'll actually get a red progress bar and that script there and a nice little message saying, look, grab all of the logs from this folder and send it to us so we can help you out. The other nice thing is that if you're upgrading an HA cluster, I had a customer I was working with where they kicked off 2 upgrades almost simultaneously, and they didn't realize they'd have 2 database upgrades running simultaneously as well, and that's not something that we generally cater for. And so they had 2 scripts running at the same time, kind of competing with each other, and an exception was thrown in one of them. And so I think this will force Octopus administrators kind of see, oh, there's an upgrade going on this server, and just let it roll on the way through before they upgrade to the next node, and they know what's happening. So that's it from me. I just wanted to give a quick demo of that. Oh, actually, one more thing before I move on. Just in case you weren't aware, I wasn't tending to write log messages in the scripts, but you can do that now. And so if you write log info to the Octopus log, you'll see that come up in the output. And the second thing is you can do it in SQL scripts too, just using a standard print statement. And so those will come up in the logs as well. So I think that's kind of nice. Any thoughts or questions?
Yeah, Mike. For those people who are using scripted installs, they won't be running the manager. So what should they do?
Yeah, okay. Let me think about where this is. So the idea is this is actually calling a command line script. So just like you would, when you run the Octopus Server Manager to do your first install, at the end of that sort of wizard, it basically just bundles up a whole bunch of command line scripts it's going to run. And that's exactly what we're doing here. So if we go into here and do octopus.server.exe, you'll see that there's a, okay, now I need to give the instance. Now which one is it going to be? Oh, conflicts, okay. That's kind of fun. Anyhow, there's a database command you can run. Let me just see if this will actually work. We must have a bit of a problem in the leader up to this. There we go. So if I do help on databases now on -- upgrade. And so the idea would be that you would stop your server where you normally stop it. Then you'd run Octopus server database -- upgrade, which will run all the upgrade scripts. So you'll see now that it's tried to run all the scripts and it's decided there's no new scripts to run, and it's just run the repeatable scripts, and then you start your server again just like normal. There's no need to do that. The only benefit you'll really get is that you'll see the output of those scripts in your automation logs, wherever they might exist. If you start the web server just like you always did, it's going to run those upgrades, but you're not going to see it as part of the command line you're running. It's going to be buried in the Octopus server logs.
Like for people who are using integrated authentication, which is hopefully everybody for SQL, the old way it would be like the Windows service would start up, and then under its principle it would go and connect to the database and run the migration scripts. Whereas now it's going to be your principle, isn't it? Like whoever's kind of remote desktop to the Octopus server. Does that?
Yeah, that's a good point.
We already have the assumption that whoever's running the manager is an admin on the Octopus database, because it has to create the database.
Uses the same thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, only at create time though. So I could imagine a potential scenario where a customer has said, yeah, we've created the database or we've used an existing database and we've granted rights for the Octopus server principal to do schema changes, but maybe the person running the MSI installation doesn't have those privileges. So that might be something we need to cater for.
Yeah, with Spaces, ODCM will have to have right privileges to every database.
I don't think it's that bad an assumption that whoever's doing the install has admin permissions to the database.
In fact, it's kind of nice. It means Octopus server would no longer need that, right?
Yeah, and when Mike was discussing with us what to do for this, we came to the conclusion as well that long term it might be nice to make the installer more than just an MSI, to make it an executable, to give us the ability to do more in the installer, and it might just invoke the MSI, so we could do license checks, do things like actually stop them and say, have you backed up your database? If not, you can abort now.
You don't feel like doing that with Wix custom actions?
Well, no.
That's a short answer. I started yesterday morning. I wanted to finish by lunchtime, and that wasn't going to happen if I started in a Wix action.
Cool.
Maven is not brave enough.
Michael, the logs that you've shown on that window, did the window, like, can I just copy and paste those?
Yeah, you can just copy and paste those if you want to. And if
I thought the window just closes automatically after it's finished.
Yeah, so if it's successful, the window automatically closes because it's sort of just moving on. It pauses for a couple of seconds just so you can see that it was successful if you really care about it. Previously, this would have happened invisibly to you, so it feels like a little bit better than it was. If the script fails for some reason, the window won't auto-close and you'll get all the indications there saying something went wrong, big red progress bar and a message at the bottom of the logs explaining what to do and where the logs are.
Awesome.
It always still goes to the server log file anyway.
It does, yeah. Yeah, I think that's the nice thing is that it's running the server executable, so all of the logging goes to the instances logs folder and all that good stuff that's there. And the nice thing is over time, it might be that ODCM can just call this command if it wants to. People can script it in like you're saying, Rob, or ODCM might do some of those changes for you. But it just felt like a really neat fit in that we already had that database command there. It was just missing the ability to run the upgrade. Cool. Alrighty. So I guess the action for everybody is, happily put log statements in. You would have seen those logs streaming past before from 3. What I've done is I've actually gone and retrofitted logging into the old scripts. So if somebody happens to be on 3.1, which I helped a customer about a month ago go from 3.1 all the way through to 3.13. And so they would have potentially encountered all these scripts that kind of paused and locked up. And taken a while, and they might have expected it because there was a lot of distance between the 2 releases they had, but at least now they'll be able to see it. And so there's no reason not to add those logs in. Great. Okay, thanks very much.
Cool. Thank you.
I'm very surprised DBL doesn't just lock now on the table, so they can't run 2 at a time. I know EF migrations does the same thing though.
Schema migrations table.
Yeah. When you take that exclusive block on the table.
Yeah, is there any scenario where you would want to do that? You wouldn't, would you? No.
Is that full request to DBL for that?
Mid access.
Just don't run it twice.
Oh, good. Is there anybody else going to jump in today? Nope. Okay, let's